Welcome to the Reframing Eye Care podcast. I am your host, Dr. Maria Sampoulos. Today's guest is Dr. Sara Varghai. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Maria. This is a great opportunity. Thank you again for letting me be on this with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to find great ODs that are doing a lot of great stuff in the industry, different stuff, successful, to inspire other ODs to do the same. And when I found out you started a cold start and you're in Virginia and you're doing very well, I wanted to have you on the podcast to highlight successful women in our industry.
Thank you. It has been challenging, but yes, rewarding nonetheless.
Yes, it is going to be work, right? But you have to want to do it. You have to be passionate about it. So for those of you that do not know Sara, she is originally from Cleveland, Ohio, got her bachelor's of science in biology from Ohio State, and then doctor of optometry from NOVA, and did extensive rotations in private practice, the VA, did a 1-year residency at Lewis Stokes Cleveland VA Medical Center, heavy emphasis on ocular disease and specialty contact lenses, and is a fellow of the American Academy of Optometry. She had a real passion to helping patients and providing like thorough eye exams, and she wanted to have her own practice, and that was how she founded NOVA Optique Eyecare. And I want to know about your journey, what got you there, how it started. And give us some real feedback. Tell us about the struggles, because a lot of people don't talk about it. And it's nice when we do, because everyone can relate, right? We want to hear the failures too, because that's what gets us to the final destination.
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely been, challenging, like I said before. And sometimes you do want to crawl into bed in the fetal position and kind of get away from the world. But I think the real reason I wanted to do this is every practice I've been at has taken vision insurance, and they've been kind of really dictated by the insurances. And I felt like I was part of an assembly line. And throughout my whole career, I always felt like the most rewarding part of my day was just talking to the patients, getting to know them, interacting with them. And even though I love glasses, the fashion side of things, and the, actual disease part of optometry, I really enjoyed interacting with my patients. But I felt like I couldn't do that in the practices I was in before. It was a limitation on time. You had to see as many patients as possible per hour. And you also didn't have some of the equipment that I wanted to practice with. And so I had to refer patients out. Even though I had done a residency, I could, do an OCT and read it and be okay with it, but I just didn't have the equipment. So trying to start out on my own, I wanted to get rid of all those things that were limiting me and how I practice. And so I started off as a cold start. And that took some time to realize whether I wanted to do that or purchase a pre-existing practice as well. But I wanted to kind of just start off. I looked at it as a cold start, as a blank canvas, and I could just paint my own picture of how I wanted to do it. And so I decided that it would be what I wanted it to be, and just kind of go that way, even though I knew obviously I wouldn't have patients coming in the door if it was a pre-existing practice. That would be the pro of it. But I wanted to kind of do my own thing. And it has been tough because obviously we don't take vision insurance. So we've had to explain that to the patients, where a lot of them assume all practices take vision insurance. But it's been nice because the patients that come to us do realize what we have to offer. We give them that value in that private practice and the amount of time we can spend with them. So it's been nice.
Yeah, that's a big jump, because a lot of doctors when I was starting cold starts, they're like, we have to take vision plans, we have to fill our book. And it is a jump that you took, but over time it will help, right? At first it is tough, but over time you build that doctor-patient relationship that, values your services, what you provide, and will also want to support your business too. I think there is that misconception in the industry. Patients just want what's covered from their insurance, and that's how they find you. There are certain patients like that. and I've learned over the years, sometimes patients will switch. You see them for years and they switch because of their vision plan. Or I've seen it working in corporate optical. They switch doctors because, it's a $10 less contact lens fitting fee. And those are not patients that build a practice, unfortunately. So it's good that you know your value and you're building a practice. A lot of doctors will question, like, do I buy a practice when it's cold? And sometimes you got to find what is best for you and what is out there. But you're right, starting cold how you want it. I've purchased a practice, and it's hard to change patients' mindsets on how the other doctor presented things. So for you, though, you decided to start direct care private practice. Can you explain that and how other doctors can do the same?
Yeah, so what I decided to do was I went in the middle. So I do take medical insurances, and I thought that was important because it could be used as a practice builder. People come to us for emergency reasons. And I wanted to give that care. If, let's say, one of my patients came in and they were a glaucoma suspect, I wanted to do the testing and not have them pay out of pocket. So the medical aspect of it we do take, but the vision insurance, I think that was the difficult thing for me to really get on board with vision insurances. We have a boutique optical, so I offer a lot of independent lines, and we carry, the ones that it would be difficult to discount, or someone coming in, even with their vision insurance, I could see them getting the exam and walking out the door with their prescription. So it wouldn't really help us out in the optical. So what I decided to do, we do use Anagram, which we will submit the insurances. So if anyone's not familiar with Anagram, it's basically an outside service, and we just look at patients' out-of-network benefits, and we will submit that to their insurance company, and they get a check. So we're not really involved with anything other than submitting it. It's very simple. So that has brought in patients because they realize we do the legwork for them. And they do realize that we do carry things that they wouldn't be able to get at somewhere else that does take their insurances. So I think patients are becoming more educated in that sense, but we've tried to do our part in telling them, listen, we can't give you the time that you need or want to spend with a doctor if we took the vision insurance, because we would have to see so many patients in an hour to, be able to do that. So I think it's been tough for us because I've had to actually coach my staff to be able to do that. But at the same time, it's kind of nice because we have, there are family doctors, primary care physicians that are doing direct care now. So I think it's becoming more streamlined.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. Your future, hopefully, of eye care will be that. And I think we are seeing not primary care going that route, and patients getting better care because they're not dictated by what insurance is telling them they can do and prescribe and things like that. So I think that's important. We could give patients what they need. You said you coached your staff. Doctors starting out, they don't have a lot of experience in business. Where are you getting this information from? Do you have mentors? Do you read articles? Is it from experience? Give us some insight on that.
So I do actually. So I did have the experience of, I worked at LensCrafters actually, as an optician before optometry school. And I think that was probably the best thing I could have done.
Yeah.
As much as we all hate LensCrafters and big box stores as optometrists, some of us do, but I think it's helpful because they do focus on sales a lot. So that was really helpful for me. So I've learned, when I started my practice, we will have weekly meetings. So this is a good way of getting everyone just kind of in the same place, kind of on the same page. But as far as where I get my information of what I do tell my staff is articles help with the journals. So the review of optometry even sometimes has, but practice, that sort of private practice stuff that we can get out of other journals, but also Anagram themselves will, not to say I have no, nothing to, as far as Anagram, I don't get any kickbacks for this, but they do help out. So they actually, when you go on, and they will help you onboard, and they do have training, but they also have some scripts that you can use. But sometimes they tell you what you can tell the patients that will kind of help out, let them know what you're doing and what you're able to do. And so that's been super helpful as well.
No, it's nice to be able to vendors to give back to your practice the best way they can. Especially like you're supporting them, and then it's not just transactional, they're supporting you too, right? Because the better you do, the better they'll do, right? And it's glad to see that vendors are doing that. And over the years I've learned a lot from working in corporate setting, and then from being able to incorporate it into my practice, but learning too and being able to talk to other doctors and help them too. So they are doing something right in these corporations. But they are doing stuff that we can make a little better. And again, personalized care, things like that too, where we have relationships, because over there you see a lot of patients too. And some of the patients, will be there for time and then they move. So it's good to be able to provide that personalized care sometimes if you have more time to spend. And they're just super, super busy, which is good too, to be able to see those patients. I mean, there's been a lot of challenges, I'm sure. And I want to know, how do you get up in the morning sometimes when it's been tough? How does that, work with, stress and overcoming challenges? But what are some big things you didn't expect?
So I would say, before you go into your own practice or getting your own business, you hear a lot of people tell you wear many hats, so one day you could be the IT person, next day you're cleaning, third day you're HR director. And I think I always thought, I heard staffing is difficult, but I thought, oh, these people just aren't good at, handling people. I'm going to be better. But I would have to say staffing is the most difficult. We opened at the worst time possible in the middle of COVID. Everyone had every opportunity to take on virtual roles. They could work from home. No one wanted to come into the office 5 days a week. So that was really hard to find a quality staff. But then even when they're here, I always say, staff are not robots. They have their own lives outside of work. And so it's been hard to deal with emotions and things like that. So, people calling out, you don't want to overstaff because then your payroll is too high. But at the same time, you want to have enough staff so that you're not answering the phone and doing things that, that you could be seeing patients doing. So that has been the most challenging, I think, the staffing. As far as getting up in the morning, it's kind of, I look at it every day it is a challenge. You look at it, how can I tackle this? How can I, go through the issues that I didn't handle the day before? And those are the things that I kind of look at, but I just kind of deal with it day on day by day, not, as just surmounting of challenges over the days.
You said you opened during COVID. Did you second guess it during COVID? Be like, hey, maybe I should
Well,
do this?
The lease was signed.
You're like, we're doing this.
Yeah, so there was no change in that. So I had to do it, but I did second guess it for a second. But then I thought, either we're going to get to the other side of this or we're all going down. So to me, there was nothing that would change my mind. So I think I made the right decision in that.
I know we touched upon this, but, you talk about your past experiences in business. And I think doctors, looking to start business should moonlight within corporate optometry, learn some stuff. I tell doctors, hey, they say to me, it's slow. I have a new sublease. It's slow. I said, well, go step into the optical, just see how they sell. Tell them you want to help adjust the frame. Because if you want to have your own practice, it's just experience you're getting, right? And you have the optician there. But also you've done a residency. So a lot of doctors will say, I was working over the years. I wasn't in a specialty clinic, whether it was private, just, some of them just do routine care but you had the special. Any advice on that as well, from past experience for doctors that, want to start practice and now have to take on most of the medical load too, as we expand scope of practice?
I think, if you don't have the opportunity now, if someone is in optometry school, I would say the best thing they could do is do a residency. That helps a lot. I did a VA rotation, and I wanted to work in the VA hospital, and that's why I did the residency, because you had to do it. But it was during the whole debacle of cooking the books for the VA, and I felt, like there wasn't much we could do then, and that was difficult to deal with. And so I decided to go into private practice. But I feel like if you're outside of that and you're kind of dealing with, like you said, if you've already done the medical portion and you are looking into opening your own practice, just like what you said, stepping into the optical, trying to help the patients, but also just trying to troubleshoot what it could be. Think outside the box. So I think a lot of patients come in, if let's say the optical and the doctor's office are separate, and they say, oh, this patient can't see out of these glasses. We assume that it's always the prescription. And so
Yes.
we need to fine tune the prescription. But a lot of times it could be a lens problem. It could be a frame problem. It could be just, vertex distance, the tilt, a lot of different things that could be the issue that we don't think about. And I think that was the single most helpful thing for me, is working as an optician, being able to do that. Because right now we only get, I don't know if anything's changed, but when I was in school, we got 1 semester of ophthalmic lab.
That's
And
right.
that's not enough to,
No.
help the patients out with their glasses. So I think it is important to be able to do that, or else you're going to do RX checks and redos multiple times to help that patient.
Yeah, and a lot of doctors don't realize too. I mean, you know it, but 60% of their revenue from a practice comes from
Mhm.
optical. So, don't just leave that to someone else. Be involved. I mean, there's other people that might, know better, but you got to learn too. And, having a conversation with you before, I was impressed with the cold start that you had outside RXs that come in to your practice. A lot of doctors are doing eye exams and they're benefiting from the eye exams from doing, selling glasses, but the means to get them in was to get the eye exam first. Give us some tips on how you're getting an outside RXs coming in and a cold start like that, because I thought that was very impressive. And now that I know that you are an optician first, I get it. So you have that business mindset and you had that experience. But give us some insights on how doctors can also target outside RXs.
So I think the biggest thing has been the type of frames that we carry. So I made sure that I did my research in the area, but also just in the industry, just getting those independent lines. The independent lines, now it's becoming different because all these independent lines are getting bought out by big corporations. So when I started, we had 8 lines that were independent. And now I think they're down to 4 or 5 because they're getting bought out. But what happens is we find lines that people cannot find online or at my eye doctor or at Lens Crafters, so they want to come here to purchase that. The other thing has been just quality frames. Our frames are probably mostly, I think on average about $500. So it is boutique-y, so it's going to be more expensive. But it's, the quality of the frame is really important. So we have that. But then also the fact that I went deeper into the frame lines. A lot of opticals, you look at them, they have maybe 20 different brands, 25 different brands, but they only have maybe 5 or 6 pairs of frames in that brand. A lot of times we get calls from patients, hey, how many frames do you have in this line? And so that's been helpful. And they come in because they know we have a bunch of frames they can try on from that frame line. But then once they come in, we do help them in that our opticians are very knowledgeable. So they are helping them with the type of lenses they're being put in, what they should know about transitions if they're interested in it. They will tell them everything. And I focus on not being pushy with our sales. So if, for instance, they're not happy with something, we do not try to finalize the sale, because we do want them to walk out actually being happy in that.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that's really helped us, I think, is we do free adjustments, free repairs as much as we can. We don't charge for pupillary distance. I know that's a thing that's been of topic in the industry, but I think those are things that people can trust us with. They realize they can come in and they, whether they like something or not, we're not going to try to sell them things. So that's really helped us as well.
No, I think that's great. I mean, you say, providing care and not pressuring. I don't pressure patients either. I think it just comes back to causing more issues into the practice. But it's good that you're in a situation where you don't have to stress about every dollar that comes in, right? Some doctors do. Some doctors are worried about, how the industry is changing, more retail, more online. I get patients that come in, they want to use their iMed insurance and they want to take their prescription and go online to Zenni. Give us some insight on how to set yourself apart, how to have that conversation with that patient that just wants their script and has their mindset already that, you're so expensive and they don't even look in your optical.
So there's a few things that we've set in place. One is our optical is actually, I do love the way it looks. I do have it where, it's not so many frames all around. It's kind of nice to look at. So we do have our patients walk through the optical before they even get to the pre-testing. So they kind of, if they are interested, they will come back and look at it. I think handoff has been also to the place where I will bring them back to the optical now that they do have to sign off on their prescription. I do bring them to the optician. And so then we already have glasses in place, let's say, and they can try it on and they can have a talk with the optician. Even before they see me in the exam room, usually the technician will ask, are you interested in glasses? So kind of to gauge. And there's been multiple times where our patients will say, hey, price is an issue for me. And I saw your glasses are too expensive. And we do have some package deals that we do offer. And so we will offer it to them. Now, if they are looking for $100 pair of glasses, we can't compete with that. And unfortunately, or I should say fortunately, I'm not going to fight with that. That is something that we won't, be able to compete with. But we will tell our patients, hey, if you need any adjustments after you get your glasses, if you have any issues, come back in. We will help you out. And so we do leave that to the patient that, and 9 times out of 10, they do come back. So it's been kind of helpful in that situation. But I would say don't fight it. There's really no reason to.
Yeah, well, I think that's good. That patient wants that, and that's maybe what they can afford. What's the best part of owning your own practice? I mean, I have subleases, I have private practice, and for me, I've always said it's never been about this, it's about freedom, right? And tell me what your favorite part has been.
I think it's just being able to set the pace the way I want to. That has been the nice thing. I can come in, and just kind of look at the schedule. If I want to adjust the schedule, I can, but also just I've toyed around with the schedule itself, like how frequently to see the patients, when I should see them, what days I want off. And that has been, I think, the most, I think that's the best thing. I think that has been what gets me up in the morning. It's someone else not telling me what days I can take off and what I can't. So that's been the best thing.
Yeah, and I think that's the motivating factor to keep going when things get tough, right? I mean, I'm like, well, it's not, maybe business has been bad compared to last year and things like that. But, I've been working for 20 years now. So if you save your money and, you're able to kind of, ignore 1 month and try to make it up the other. But the fact that I can kind of do what I want, when I want, come and go, I like that. I love that about that, having your own practice. You do more work, but over time, it gets easier. Have you ever had any regrets about starting your own practice? I think there's days I put my hands up in the air and I'm like, I just quit. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's those full moon days that everything goes wrong and everyone's unhappy, and so it does feel just kind of, you feel discouraged for having done this. But I think every day when I walk in the door to my office, I am happy about the decision. I don't regret it one bit. I think it's only going to get better from here. So no, I think it's the best decision I could make. Yeah, it's been
Excellent.
great.
I can feel your passion. I mean, you love it. I love doing my own thing. It's nice to be able to talk to you about it, and we're on the same wavelength. There's a lot of doctors that want to have their own practice. Some go sublease, some go, sublease to private practice. I call it like a warm start. They already have some patients, the ones that will follow. Some will buy a practice. Some will do cold start. What is some advice for those doctors that have been looking at it, just haven't pulled the trigger? Some advice you can give them?
I think the best advice I can give is, like you said, there's different modalities to optometry, and that's what I love about it. Everyone kind of has their place, I think, in optometry. I would say try it out all out, whether it be just the retail setting, the private practice, if you can work as an associate and see what talks to you. As soon as you kind of decide what, is the best decision for you, the best route, try to have a vision of what you want and try to work towards your vision. I spoke about a blank canvas before earlier. I think it was important for me to know what I wanted. And so to me, I always picture that. It took years to find the perfect spot that I wanted and to get the lease and do all these things. But I think there's so many distractions along the way, people telling you that might not work, this might not work. But if you're really resolute in what you want, I think you should just kind of go after it. But knowing that is the tough part.
Yeah, but you're confident in yourself, right? I mean, my path wasn't the traditional path, and there was a lot of roadblocks, and it wasn't easy, and I did things differently than other doctors, and the final end product was still fine, right? And I've talked to a lot of optometrists over the years, and you never hear an optometrist go bankrupt, right? Never. And then, even with a cold start, you don't have to be there 5 days if you need income. Some doctors work part-time at another office. Some have subleases too, and supplement income that way. It's not easy. It's not as easy as it used to be. Yes, that's correct. I'm not saying it is, but if you have the passion, you have the motivation, a little more confidence in yourselves, ODs. A lot of don't have. I mean, more than what you think, and know your value. There will be down days, and I think we focus on those more than anything else. Mm-hmm. But it is, if you want that, and that's what you want, your future self will appreciate it.
Definitely. Yeah. I agree 100%.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. If doctors want to reach out to you and ask you questions about your journey, is there an email that they can contact you?
Yeah. My name actually, Sara, so .varghai@gmail.com. They can reach me out that way, or on LinkedIn. I'm available as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, inspiring our ODs to start their journey in their own practice, business ownership. And thank you for sharing your story and your success too. I'm very happy for your success. It's nice to see ODs successful in our industry.
Thank you so much, Maria. I appreciate it.